Have you ever felt like there's more to our story, more to where we come from than what we've been told? For centuries, we've accepted a single linear path of human evolution. But what if that timeline is incomplete? What if fragments of a much grander, more complex story have been hidden, not by conspiracy, but by the sheer limits of our understanding? Well, get ready, because in 2025, everything we thought we knew is about to change. Imagine a young geneticist, let's call her Dr. Eris Thorne. Eris wasn't your typical lab coat scientist. She was a historian at heart, driven by a relentless curiosity about our shared past. She spent her days in a state-of-the-art genomics lab in Geneva, surrounded by the quiet hum of sequencers mapping the very code of life. But her mind was often thousands of years in the past, wandering through ancient ruins and forgotten civilizations. She believed that our DNA was the ultimate history book, holding stories that stone and pottery could only hint at. Her big project, codenamed Genesis Echo, was ambitious. The goal was to use next-generation quantum computing to analyze ancient DNA samples with a resolution never before possible. The official aim was to map prehistoric migration patterns. But Eris had a secret, a personal quest. She was searching for anomalies, for genetic outliers, ghosts in the machine that didn't fit the established narrative. For 2 years, the project yielded predictable results, reinforcing the textbooks. But then, one rainy Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. An alert pinged on her screen, a flashing red anomaly from a sample labeled Okhotsk 7. It was a bone fragment, over 30,000 years old, unearthed from a remote Siberian cave. The standard analysis showed it belonged to a Denisovan, an ancient cousin of Neanderthals and modern humans. Nothing unusual there. But Eris's new algorithm, the one she'd secretly designed, dug deeper. It flagged a segment of DNA that was impossible. It was a sequence so complex, so mathematically perfect, that it looked less like a product of random mutation and more like it was engineered. It contained markers for cognitive abilities and cellular resilience that far surpassed anything seen in Denisovans, Neanderthals, or even early Homo sapiens. It was like finding a microchip in a medieval manuscript. Her heart pounded. This couldn't be right. It had to be contamination, a data error. She ran the sequence again and again. For a week, she barely slept, checking every variable, every line of code. The result was always the same. The impossible gene sequence was real. It was ancient, and it was embedded within the Denisovan genome. This is where the story takes its first turn. This wasn't just one sample. As Eris expanded her search, the same anomalous sequence began appearing in other ancient DNA databases, hidden in plain sight. A Neanderthal from Spain, an early modern human from what is now Israel, and even in a 40,000-year-old sample from Australia. They were all connected by this Genesis Echo gene. It wasn't a single lineage. It was as if someone or something had visited different groups of ancient hominins across the globe at different points in time, and gifted them a piece of the same advanced genetic code. The forbidden timeline wasn't about a missing link. It was about multiple parallel sparks of intervention. Who were these benefactors? Why did they do it? The implications were staggering and, frankly, terrifying. It suggested that human evolution wasn't just a slow, steady climb. It was punctuated by moments of profound external influence. This discovery would shatter the foundations of anthropology, history, and even our own sense of identity. Who are we really, if part of our blueprint was a gift from an unknown source? Eris knew the academic world would tear her apart. They'd call her a fraud, a sensationalist. Her funding would be cut, her career ruined. The pressure was immense. This is the evidence they don't want you to see, not because of some shadowy cabal, but because the establishment is built on the comfort of known facts. Discovery. This disruptive threatens everything. She confided in her mentor, an older, respected professor named Dr. Kenji Tanaka. He listened patiently, his face unreadable. When she finished, he didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss her. He simply walked to a locked filing cabinet and pulled out a dusty, leather-bound journal. It was his own research from 30 years prior. He opened it to a page filled with hand-drawn diagrams of a near-identical gene sequence, which he had found using the primitive technology of the 1990s. He'd dismissed it as an error, an artifact of his crude methods. He'd buried it, convinced himself it was a youthful fantasy. He looked at Eris, his eyes filled with a mix of regret and awe. "I saw the ghost," he whispered, "but I was too afraid to believe it. You didn't just see it. You caught it." This was the moment of profound realization for Eris. She wasn't alone. Others had glimpsed this truth before her. The weight on her shoulders shifted from a burden of proof to a mantle of responsibility. This wasn't just her discovery anymore. It was a legacy. Together, Eris and Kenji decided to bypass the traditional, slow-moving channels of academic peer review. The world deserved to know. But how do you present a truth so monumental it sounds like science fiction? They couldn't just publish a paper. They needed to tell a story. This is where the story shifts from science to humanity. They realized the Genesis Echo gene wasn't just about advanced cognition. It also coded for something else, something they had initially overlooked, a profound capacity for altruism and prosocial behavior. Empathy, compassion. It was a genetic predisposition for connection. This discovery changed everything. The gift from our ancient ancestors wasn't just a bigger brain, it was a bigger heart. It was the biological hardware for cooperation, for community, for looking at a stranger and seeing a sibling. This led them to their emotional climax. Instead of a dramatic press conference attacking the establishment, Eris chose a different path. She organized a global online summit, not for scientists, but for everyone. Historians, artists, philosophers, community leaders, and ordinary people from every corner of the globe. She presented her findings not as a weapon to tear down old theories, but as an invitation. The Forbidden Timeline wasn't a story of aliens or gods in the traditional sense. It was the story of us, all of us, receiving a common inheritance, a spark of shared potential, she said. For too long, we have defined ourselves by what separates us. Our tribe, our nation, our beliefs. We have built walls based on superficial differences in our DNA. But the oldest story, written in the very code of our being, is not one of division. It's one of connection. This Genesis Echo is not a Neanderthal gene or a Denisovan gene or a Sapiens gene. It is a human gene. It is the part of us that builds, that helps, that hopes. Her act of generosity wasn't just sharing the data, it was sharing the meaning. She reframed a potentially terrifying discovery into a message of profound unity and hope. She proposed that this shared genetic heritage was the reason we've survived. It's why we build hospitals, create art, and risk our lives for strangers. It's the echo of an ancient gift that nudges us toward compassion. The response was overwhelming. The initial shock and skepticism gave way to a global conversation. People saw the evidence not as a threat, but as a confirmation of something they always felt deep down, that we are all part of one family, connected by something more than just proximity. The story of the Forbidden Timeline became the story of our shared origin. The 2025 evidence wasn't something to be feared or hidden. It was a mirror, showing us our deepest, most ancient, and most noble selves. It revealed that the most advanced piece of technology inside us isn't what makes us smart, but what makes us kind. So, the next time you look at the stars and wonder about our place in the universe, or you look at a stranger across the street, remember the echo. Remember that the story of human origins is far grander, more mysterious, and more beautiful than we ever imagined. And the most important chapter isn't about how we evolved to be clever, but how we were gifted the capacity to care. Our forbidden timeline isn't a secret to be kept. It's a promise to be fulfilled. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please share it, and let's continue this conversation together. Subscribe for more journeys into